Yeah.
Which advert you playing? Do you have a new one? Welcome to Conversation 473. It's a Friday night in St. George's, Grenada. We're being joined by a very special guest on this edition of the program. Sylvena X is here. She is the the Director of Protocol for the European and Regional offices of across the world. A very old organization, a very big organization in rights issues, and what's coming up, a big event coming up. It's July 4th coming up in the United States, and Louis Farrakhan, who heads the organization, will be giving a big speech. The theme of the speech is Criterion, and it's a global speech. He's going to be talking to the entire world on this, and not just the Muslims, but the Christians and everybody. His message is going to be targeting the world. Is going to be talking about the state of affairs in the United States right now, and we're going to delve a lot into that with Sylvena. And also he's going to be talking about the COVID crisis and just how the human nation has to interact now in a time when we're questioning whether or not these are the last days in this world. So she's here to talk about, Sister Sylvena X is here to talk about those issues. Welcome to the program. Also, Kitaka is here, and Rolanda is here with me. Good to have you on the program, Sister Sylvena.
Thank you, Sister. Good to be here.
All right. Kitaka, Rolanda, what's
Hi, sis. I'm so excited to have you here. I used to go to the mosque in London. You know, it was very, very inspiring. I remember the first time I was invited. I think it was Khalid Mohammed I heard spoke, and I heard things that I never heard before. I mean, I remember going home and having to double check and make sure all my windows was closed. You know, there is a saying, if the lion is awake, if the lion is asleep, you do not wake it. And I remember saying to Brother Jeffrey, you know, before these brothers speak, they should come with a warning, you know, that you have to be strong mentally to be able to listen to the truth. Because, you know, sometimes they say the truth shall set us free, but it's very few people that would hear the truth.
Right.
You know, so I'm looking so forward to hearing Minister Louis Farrakhan speak tomorrow. I am so excited because, you know, growing up in a place like England, I remember when I used to feel very low, I would just go and just listen to his word, his teaching. And I got a new list of life in me. And I'm really excited. I'm so excited that all you are able to join us. And I'm even more excited about tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about what can we expect him to say to the world tomorrow in this speech, and why Criterion as a theme?
Right. Now, before I must give my apologies, I just need to connect something technically so we can just run smoothly for the rest of the conversation. So please allow me just 10 seconds and I'll be right back with you.
So, Miss McQueen, I never knew I never knew you were a member of the Nation of
I'm
Islam.
ready.
Oh, then it's I mean this they banned Minister Louis Farrakhan from coming to England to speak because I believe if they had allowed him to come and speak in England, he would have woken up so many people that we would have had more rioting. So can you believe they would allow all racist people, Donald Trump, they have banned the minister for years that he cannot come to the UK and speak. When you hear this Mr. Farrakhan speak, Kitaka, it shakes you, I mean, can you imagine he brought 1 million man out on the street when people said that he couldn't do it? The love that the people has for him. And as I said, I am, there is one brother, that's how I get to know Mr. Jeffrey Mohammed, who is a lawyer. And the love I see this man shows to young men that get into trouble. He is not, he's not just a lawyer. He coaches, and it's not about the money for him. It's about the love. And the minister teaches us how to love each other. It is just, if when he become your lawyer, it's like a friend, it's a big brother, it's an uncle. They care. And it's, sometimes we say that we don't care about each other. The minister teaches you to care and to love each other and to listen to each other. It's just a totally different thing. It would be so nice, and especially we're speaking tonight from an island that where
Malcolm X.
Malcolm X has come from, and the minister and Malcolm X and all of them. These are the people that has fought, and it's so nice to know that we have Minister Farrakhan here with us, because so many of our great leaders has lost their life, and to know that tomorrow he will be speaking to the world. I think they have over 60 something countries already going to be tuned in. It's just, I'm just so excited. I'm so excited and honored that we will be live streaming it. I mean, the energy I am feeling, and I was speaking to brother the brother, and he was telling me, there's people from all over the world just wanting to hear his message. It will be a great day, to be a fantastic evening. Really, really, really excited. Have any of you ever heard the minister speak?
Yeah, I've listened to many speeches from Louis Farrakhan. But I think Sylvena is back with us.
Yeah,
Sylvena, you're back?
I'm back for a while, brother. So I remember the question sister asked. So she asked me,
Yeah.
what can we expect to hear from the minister tomorrow, and why the criteria? And before I start, I just want everyone to know that I'm here representing, in his absence, the student regional European minister, Brother Hakim Mohammed. So that I'm here representing him. He sends his greetings. He's had back-to-back engagements, and has been engaged in a lot of activity recently. So due to that, I'm here on his behalf. So just wanted to let everybody know that. I wouldn't attempt to preempt what the Honourable Minister Farrakhan is going to say tomorrow. But what I can do is share with you what I've learned so far, and my understanding of the time that we're in, as taught by the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Now, in terms of the time that we're speaking, it's our 90th anniversary. It's on our Independence Day, where we were declared free and independent as a people by the God in person, as we call him. The manifestation of the Most High in a human being, Mustafa Muhammad. And it's a time, brothers, brother and sisters, where we really do need to understand what the time that we're actually living in and what we are called as a people to do. We're out of the time of warnings now. Minister Farrakhan has been preaching and teaching and dedicated his life, 42 years of his life, absent of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. He's dedicated to the cause, and the warning is over. The warning is over, because the true and living God is here to deliver his people. Those of us who are in attune with the time, who will be able to move along with what's on the horizon for us, which is which is our deliverance. And it is that time, and we can see with the calamities and the pestilence and all the types of things that are happening throughout the nation, and you can see through the awakening of all different creeds, how they are responding to certain social affairs, that there is definitely a major paradigm shift happening. So it's no coincidence that the Honourable Minister Farrakhan would be speaking that, you know, the universe has aligned, that July the 4th would fall in the middle of such an unprecedented time. So it's not the usual message where we should be expected to be titillated and excited. And that's good. But what really we need to open our hearts and minds to happen, what we really should want to happen, is that whatever the Most High God has put on the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan's heart to share with his beloved people, that we receive it from his spirit to ours, and that once we've taken in the message, that we have been enlightened enough to actually move on what he's saying, because it's that time, and things are going to change, and things are going to, when Allah when the Most High God, who we call Allah, is going to shift powers, you know, from the powers of the unrighteous, from the powers of the wicked to the chosen. There's going to be a period of severe trial and difficulty, that we know, that we've been taught for a very long time. So in this address that we're eagerly anticipating tomorrow, I am waiting for divine instruction, and I'm waiting for I'm anticipating and listening closely for my next step, so I can be in time and make sure that I can endure what's coming ahead.
Question. Why July 4th and not a time prior before, or not another time? Why was this particular date selected?
Right, July the 4th is when the Nation of Islam, I'm paraphrasing, is the day when we were declared Black people, I wouldn't say primarily, in the first instance in North America, but of course Black people all throughout the world were given a supreme wisdom, were given a flag, and were given a nationality that of our own. And we were declared, although we have to grow into that independence, we have to elevate into that independence. The declaration was made that from here on in, now we know who we are, we know our origin as original people, that anything we do from this day forward will feed into our ultimate independence. So July the 4th as a nation is the Nation of Islam's Independence Day. And it's no coincidence that it will coincide, with, you know, as we know, America call it their Independence Day, because actually there is no comparison. And when the Most High God is coming to raise the despised and the rejected, he's going to do it in a major way, he's going to do it in a grand way. So, you know, we don't shy away from these big holidays. July the 4th is the Independence Day of, if we know it, of all Black people across this earth.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, sister.
as a woman, in the nation of Islam, there are, what the mothers, I would say, what are we saying to our children that are asking questions? I mean, my granddaughter said to me when she saw all of this going on, she said, Mom, what have we done? Why are people hating on us? She was only 10. Her brother, mom, I said, he said, my mom don't allow me to look at videos, the news anymore because, it frightens me. What would you say to the mothers? How do we explain to our children what is going on?
I think very good question. We need to be giving a divine perspective to our children, because no other perspective is going to make sense. We need to give our children a divine perspective that they can have foresight and have an insight from a divine point of view of what's taking place. And the divine perspective is that everything that happens, whether it's good, this is in child speak, of course, whether it's positive or negative, ultimately the Most High God is always in control of it. And part of the reason why we are enjoying, we can't change other people's behavior, we can't change their mindset towards us, we can't change their attitudes towards us, but what we can change is what we do for ourselves. And part of the reason that we are enduring, and continuously falling victim to these different types of treatment that we're receiving at the hands of our oppressors, is the fact that we are not doing what the time calls us to do. And what the time calls us to do is to not to beg others for things that we can attain for ourselves. What it calls us to do is to unify. What it calls us to do is go after a state and territory of our own where we can govern ourselves. And that is the only solution. That is the only solution. There's a lot more we could say, but in what I would say is that the conversations we should have with our children are conversations of empowerment, not conversations of why we think they're doing it and what they should and shouldn't do. We know wrong, but what we should be saying to our children is things that are going to empower them, things that we know that they can do to contribute towards our liberation in a real way.
Okay. There's an individual here on the chat, that's Jeffrey. He's saying that we are living in the end of days, as explained in the scriptures which we read. The changing of worlds from the unrighteous to the righteous. So with that context, Sylvena, how important it is right now for individuals to make things right in terms of the lifestyle and the spiritual liberty on earth right now, to really cope and to make the best of the current situations and things that are happening in the world right now.
Well, it's in how important is it? It's actually crucial, because there are a lot of distractions taking place. And if we're too easy, some people perceive, a spiritual life as quite restricting and, quite boring, and I can't get to do this and I can't get to do that and the other. But with so many distractions going on, if we're distracted by these frivolous things of life, we're missing the signs. And it's not so much that, we're all shaped in some kind of sin and iniquity, the Most High God knows that already. But it's a matter of maneuvering and making sure that we're trying to at least be on the right side of this judgment that we're now living in. So it's important in that we are responsible for ourselves in terms of heeding the warnings that are given to us, in terms of taking right guidance, and in terms of being able to read the signs so we can maneuver in a way that we can preserve ourselves. So it's an individual accountability. We're living in that time now, brother, definitely. And it's not about labels so much, It's not about pointing out people's wrongs or the little things that they do that may be quote unquote unrighteous. But it's really important that we have a vision and have an understanding of what's happening now and how do I see myself getting through this. And if we don't have that and we don't know where to get it from, then we need to definitely be listening tomorrow, because tomorrow will definitely answer a lot of questions for a lot of people. There are a lot of people that are actually in emotional turmoil right now because they can't make sense of, can't make any sense. None of us can make complete sense of it, but they can't make any sense of the events that are happening. And while you're in that state of mind, while you're in a semi-panic or a semi-anxiety, you can't think scientifically, you can't think mathematically, and you can't plan effectively. So it's very important that we do definitely, brother, look to take good guidance and right guidance in this time.
So I was reading an article today, and in the article there was a quote from Minister Farrakhan, which said, "This message would not just be for Muslims. It's not just for Christians. It's not just for Jews. It is for every inhabitant on this planet." So, like, how what's the stance of the Nation of Islam right now, and are you guys moving towards a greater sense of unity and bridging the gap between Islam and the many other religions that exist currently?
Brother, that's all. Thank you. That's always been our stance. It's always been our stance. So we've always been, a nation that wants to really be the example of what true unity looks like. So, for example, in the UK, we work and have worked with many different organisations. The first March for Reparations in the UK was organised from the offices of the Nation of Islam. So that's a principle that we've always stood on. In terms of our universality, I think we did go through a phase where people tended to see us, and sometimes we were represented as what would I say, as secular, and as maybe only having enough love, for original people. This teaching is definitely primarily for us because we are the chosen, not because of our color, but because of the content of our heart. The fact that we can, know what the atrocities that have taken place. I speak for myself living in England, know the atrocities that have taken place, past and present, and yet still have a smile, in our heart for a Caucasian that we may pass on the road. Those are the kind of principles that I lost choosing people on. So color was never necessarily the criteria. But in terms of our stance, in terms of truth is for everybody. And if anybody who can accept truth and can accept that, yes, those who you despise and you reject are the first and original people to this planet. If you can accept that, then who are we to turn someone away, no matter what shade or tone of skin they are, if they can accept such a truth.
Okay. Now we are a couple hours away from the anticipated Criterion live stream. How much work, like how was it for you guys, like behind the scenes, like putting together an event of that magnitude?
Well, I can say we've been very busy. It's 1:30 in the morning, and I'm here speaking to you. So it's very busy. We work off an electric energy that you get when you're engaging with truth. That's what keeps us going, and that's what keeps us motivated. So yes, it's been very busy. It's been exciting. We've been communicating with people. We have our live broadcast tomorrow is being translated in Wolof, that's a Senegalese language. It's been translated into West African language as well. It's been translated into Serbian. It's been translated into about 15 different languages. And then it's being live broadcast across 50 countries across the world. So we've made so many connections, brother, throughout this period and in preparation for July the 4th. And again, if we're doing the right things at the right time, then we can see what's happening is that we're actually unifying. We're actually beginning to unify, and those descendants of the slave trade, like myself, who has, originally had a Scottish, we'll still say originally, I was born into a Scottish surname, has now been able to connect with our, original family across the continent of Africa. Those of us whose who have we have original family in France, who of course colonized by certain parts of Africa, colonized by France. So we have lots of our African family over there who I speak to them on a daily basis. So for me, I say every time I speak to them that it's such a beautiful thing, like that allow the Most High God would use what would appear to be negative events to actually bring the original family together. So very busy, but very invigorating at the same time.
Something has just happened, Kitaka. I don't know if it's the same with you. Facebook is not allowing me to share. Is that happening with you?
No, I think I was able to share. I'm not sure.
No, if you look, I'm not. They're blocking all. It never happened.
Remember, you had shared a video previously that had them ban you a while because you shared some.
No, but they only ban me for they just say it's not a ban. Message could not be sent. Tap for details, and when I tap, it's not can reply to this conversation. I mean, I shared yesterday, but you are sharing okay.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, they're not allowing me to share, but I guess as much Sister Sylvena wouldn't be surprised anyway if they, got things like that. You guys, the sister and them are used to it. Tomorrow, I personally think it's for the young. I mean, it's an important message for all of us, but especially for the young Black male, because it seems, sister, that everybody wants to fight them or kill them, or do you think will be a message tomorrow where the minister will tell them, to be of courage, to be of strength? Because a lot of people, I've listened to this, I can't remember her name now, it's the African lady that spoke, and when that happened to George Floyd, and she said, for 400 years, the people in the diaspora, the Caribbean and America, we have been wandering around the world, and she was saying that Africa should open their arms and welcome her children back, because the only thing we know is about the slave. I know somebody was saying to me, it's Exodus, it says that we will travel the world for 400 years. And then, things will change. We'll get our freedom. And it seems exactly when we look at it in the Bible, it seems something is happening.
Yes.
Something. What you.
Carry on, sister. I agree. Something is happening.
Something is happening. But how can we, after we've been mentally abused and for 400 years, a lot of us are still scared. It's like being in a dark room and the light is it Paul that was in jail, and when God came and the light came and it blinded him. It seemed that when I look at what is happening, I'm thinking, am I dreaming? There is every day white people from around the world care about a Black person's life, although you still see another side where Black people being crucified in places like Libya. And then when you look at the Christianity, there are pastors that making so much money off of our heartache and heart, because I think it's the only Minister Farrakhan I've ever heard spoke words of and telling us who we really are. You know, you still have some of these churches with the white Jesus, you know, and confusing our brain and taking all our money from us and trying to, because we are so weak. As I said, if I need strength and I listen to the minister, I get strength. When I go to the church to pray for me, all I get is they want my money. They want everything I have. What are we should be doing now? When we look at this, the Christianity, what, you know, as a person that grew up as a Christian, right, that been told everything my ancestor did was evil and was wrong, and you know, and you know, we giving the pastors our money, they're having the mega churches, but they're not giving us anything to encourage us. They're not giving us hope. As I say, when I listen to the minister, I get hope. What are you saying? What will you say to these people and them that have been following the European, I would say, religion for years, and it hasn't done anything to them? What would you say to them tomorrow? How would you encourage them? Because you know, most of us are still putting our two fingers in our ears because we do not want to hear the truth. What can you say to somebody like that?
Well, to answer your to respond to your first point, sister, when you said something is happening and you made a reference to the Bible, and there's a chapter in Genesis chapter 15 verse 13 that reads, and he said unto Abraham, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them for 400 years. And then Allah goes on to say, and also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance. And that's the time that we're in. We're actually living in that time. So something is happening. Something is happening because we're walking into that prophecy that the truth of the Bible actually wrote about. So something is definitely happening, sister. And that's what it is. It's that time when, you know, the judgment is here. We've had our affliction in a land that's not our own. And, you know, we've been subjugating all, you know, all those types of things that we're still experiencing on some level. And the time now when they shall be judged after having decades and, you know, of warning is here. So it's definitely a shift. Now, in terms of what you said about people perhaps following some line of religion or Christianity or spiritual direction that's not doing anything for themselves, doing anything for them, that's very important. Because for me, if my spirituality, if I can't see the benefit, if I can't see the tangible, practical benefit for myself and my daughter, and if I can't see it in my life, then I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing it for, because where is the evidence? Where is the personal testimony? And I think it is definitely, sister, you know, I believe it is definitely slave mentality, where we're taught to rely upon a mystery God, which is why we don't mind waiting for decades and not seeing any blessings, because if God himself is apparently a mystery, which we don't believe in a mystery God, you know, we believe in a true living God, but if God himself is a mystery, if you think about it, sister, if God himself is a mystery, then, and you need to wait until you die to benefit from any type of heaven, any type of peace of mind, and we're willing to do that, that's where the problem lies. So what I would say is, you know, the first thing to do is to love yourself enough to know, regardless of, you know, what you may think of different spiritual houses, at least love yourself enough to know that you deserve heaven in this life that you're living in now. And if you're what you're taking in and what you're dedicating your time to and your money to and your service to, if that's not translating into your life elevating by degrees, day after day, week after week, month after month, and for some of them year after year, then love yourself enough to go after the truth And the truth is always going to be uncomfortable, you know, whether it's a, whether it's a humble truth between you and a family member that has to tell you something about yourself, or whether it's a, a divine truth. It's always going to be uncomfortable because it shifts your frame of reference. This is what I know. I've known this all my life, even if I didn't quite believe it, or even if I didn't quite understand it. This is what I've known. Whereas we have to be courageous. We have to be courageous, and we have to not go after spirituality with our head. We have to go after it with our heart. We have to go after it with our spirit. How does it feel? Never mind what your mind, what your infiltrated mind processes it as, because once you put your mind on it, which has already been stamped and approved by the law of man, by the law of this world, you won't hardly recognize the truth once you process it, but your heart recognizes it though. You feel it. You feel it when you hear it though, and stick with that feeling. I would say trust your judgment. And like I say, more importantly, love yourself enough to know that you deserve heaven while you're living. And if your heart is open and you listen tomorrow without restricting yourself with judgment, because it's a restriction. If you're going to judge something before you even heard it, then you're doing yourself an injustice. So come with an open heart, listen with a pure heart, aim to get whatever is on the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan's heart to deliver to you, and process it afterwards. But go with your feeling, go with that spirit, go with that feeling, and I'm sure you'll make the right choice.
You know, I've been quiet and listening for a while, and you talked about the liberation and us as Black people establishing our nation and governing ourselves. And I look at, we've had a lot of great movements and a lot of great people in our past messaging and talking about our self-love and recognizing our power and our strength and our superiority of heart. But here we are in 2020, and Rolanda talked about, something is happening. And I'm wondering what is happening, because what I'm not seeing is Black people gravitating towards a united front, gravitating towards a united movement, and laying the groundwork for us to achieve that liberation. We still, we're still very divided among ourselves. We continue to be our worst enemies. And while, you talked a lot about spirituality, and that's great, and spirituality is really an individual thing and an individual choice for each person. When we talk about liberation of the Black people, now that is it. The spirituality can be a basis for that, but then we also have to have more. We have to have self-worth, and people have to understand what is required, where we are, what we're going through, why it cannot stand. I mean, are we just waiting for the Bible prophecy to be fulfilled, and that our 400 years of wandering and suffering and oppression are going to end? Because what I am not seeing is a mass movement of Black people empowering and strengthening themselves to make that shift. I mean, is it just that I am not seeing it, that we are actually preparing ourselves for this liberation?
I think there's a few points that you raised there, sister. I would say that yes, somewhere we're stubborn people, and the supreme being will continue to turn up the heat, because some of us hear divine guidance and listen to it more than quicker than others. Some of us need a little more pressure, so we can actually say, okay, because sister, a lot of us have made up our mind that we're actually planning to stay amongst these people. And with that, we can actually deliberate with them and reason with them and hold up placards to appeal to whatever love we perceive, we think that they have in their hearts. So some of us need a little bit more pressure, and some grace. That I think it was Marcus Garvey had said, and I know that Honourable Minister Farrakhan has been saying it for all of his years of teaching, that a lot of us are going to have to be go under a severe trial at the hands of the oppressor before we make up our minds that the only and best solution for us is unity. So I agree with you that yes, we may not at the moment be perceived to with our limited wisdom to be coming together in the right direction. But if we remember that there is, this world is not rotating, is not functioning, and this universe is not rotating of itself. There is a higher power always in control, and what we need to do, sister, is align with that. Now that brings me on to your point where you said about spirituality being an individual thing. It's an individual choice. It's an individual choice, I would say, sister. I agree with you on that. And you mentioned about having self-esteem. Did you say self-esteem? I don't want to misquote you. Or self-love. And you mentioned about having, understanding of what the time and what to do. And that actually is spirituality, because spirituality is supposed to be practical. It's not supposed to be something that, you just speak about, sound very eloquent and, dress a certain way, or, rub certain oils on your skin, or will walk with certain crystals. It's actually supposed to be, it's supposed to manifest practically in your life. So knowing what time it is, knowing the time and what must be done, understanding your self-worth, which is partly it relates to what I was saying about loving yourself enough to know that you deserve heaven on this earth. You deserve heaven on while you're living. All these things are supposed to be part of our spiritual development. That's what they are, and that's why I'm here, in my nation, because I realize that unless all of these different aspects of self are constantly being fed and developed, then, as you quite rightly said, sister, we won't be in the right frame of mind to unify, and actually we won't be very desirable to unify with, because we'll still have so many of the ways that we've picked up amongst us that the unity won't be able to sustain. So I don't know if that fully answers what you said. If I didn't, please come back at me again.
Oh, no, 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 you were great. As Malcolm X, who was part of the movement, Rolanda mentioned it earlier on. I think you had been off for a few minutes. And of course, we know the history of what happened there, the division and so on. Do you think that maybe the division and the death of Malcolm X may have set back progress that could have been made along those lines? That the strength that he brought to the times and the situation that we face, that maybe if he had um, survived, if the movement had not split, if he had not been killed, that possibly we black people might have been closer to the realizations that we need to be at in order to unify and head home to Africa or wherever we decide to make our home as a unified race.
Thank you, sister. I don't necessarily, I'm not going to comment necessarily because on Brother Malcolm X in particular, because what you said as you were speaking, it made me think of many examples of greats that have come and gone. And whilst they were, alive, you have people that, claimed to stand with them and stand upon the principles that they stood for. We have many examples. The Most High God has sent us many great ones, sister, along the way, that, we could ask the same question for all of them, But evidently what happens is, soon as that personality goes, then the momentum and the passion and the spirit in the people seems to go with that person. So fundamentally, that means then all the noise that we were making, all the moves that we were making weren't actually built on solid ground. Because if I have, a loved one who has a dream and they pass away before, or a vision, and they pass away before they can fulfill that vision, then if I still have breath and capacity and strength, then I'm going to make sure that vision's fulfilled, because I'm here to do that work. But I'm not going to do it if I don't really have that vision on my heart. So to me, what's happened time after time, when we have these greats raised amongst from our people that come to inspire and to invigorate us and to offer us some kind of direction, the fact that when they pass the dream, and sorry, the vision, wrong word, the vision passes with them, shows that fundamentally, mentally, and I'm going to say spiritually, because it's all combined, we are not ready. We're not ready. So the answer to that would be no, not because necessarily the greats didn't do what they were destined to do, but more so that us as a people, we have to work on ourselves. And personality worship is never the way. We should never worship the personality. It's always, some people, and our minister, student minister Abdul Hakim, mentions at his last address at Masmaram in Chicago, that don't insult us by saying that we worship the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. We just love him. What we worship are the principles that come from the Most High God. That's all. And when we get caught up in personality worship, then we're not principled. We're only looking at personality. So we have to get to the root of this power, and the root of this power could only be in the author of this universe, and that's where we need to get to as a people.
There's a question that's been on chat for a while that I need to ask you. It's from one of our viewers. He wants to get your views on white Jesus and its psychological effect on the Black people universally.
The white Jesus. Psychologically, I would say that, you see, that white Jesus was born out of a long-term vision. Okay, so it was born out of a long-term vision that they can say, okay, then the oppressor can say, we had them in this condition for X amount of years. We instilled our ways, our morals. We put a name on them, and then what we're going to do now, we're going to give them a vision, an image that will be passed down generation after generation, of this Jesus who, if any of you have got, I'm sure from the Caribbean and most parts of Africa, Jesus, Jesus is a big man. I'm saying Jesus is the one where we perceive, and he is, because he's alive today in Minister Farrakhan. But the Jesus that we were wrongly taught about was our deliverer, is going to come back and to deliver us all and died for our sins. And if that man is a white man, then it says to us that ultimately our I'm not looking for the word liberation. I will say liberation, that's the word I'm looking for. Can only come through a white man. I don't want to spend too long talking about it though, because I think now we're at a time where it's common knowledge. It's common knowledge that Jesus, the Jesus of 1400 years of the historical context, and the Jesus that was prophesied to come, that is now here, they're both original men. And we are told that Jesus is and was a Black revolutionary Messiah. That's who Jesus is. So let's focus on the truth of Jesus. Let's focus on the fact that we do have a Messiah amongst us that can reach the multitudes. We do have a Messiah amongst us that is despised by the Jews, by the so-called Jews, because there are some Jews, some genuine Jews that we're always reminded that are not of that mind. But there's a certain sector of so-called Jews that do despise the Jesus that's in our midst. So I think what we need to do, brothers who asked the question, is yes, of course, we know that there's been countless effects psychologically on that lie. However, when truth comes into our sphere, it's our responsibility now to focus on the truth and to act upon the truth. And the Messiah is here. The Messiah, as the sister said, he called out over 1 million black men, and it was, a peaceful gathering. It was a clean gathering, and it actually reduced crime rates, reduced death rates. There were statistics to show that the amount of black children that got fostered and adopted after that event increased exponentially. So this is the work of the Messiah. So let's get to know the Messiah. So tomorrow, July the 4th, 4 o'clock GMT, Greenwich Mean Time, tune in and look at the criteria. Look at what we're taught about Jesus, the Christ. Look at what we're taught about the Messiah, and look at the work of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and see the similarity in the description and the man. And then let's talk about the Jesus that's in our midst today.
Sister, when you go to Europe, I remember speaking to a friend of mine who was from Poland. And when I told her that in a conversation, growing up as a child, I was told that Jesus was white. She laughed at me because she, growing up, always knew Jesus was black. When you go to any museum in Europe, you always see black Jesus, a black Madonna. Do you think our churches, the black churches, has helped? Somebody said, what do we think about the white Jesus, how we've been taught it? But don't you, it's very rare, you find most black people now are going to these black churches, this revival, this new church starting up, and they still have the white Jesus. Don't you feel like they are the one that is keeping it more alive? I've heard that the Archbishop in England had said we will have this type of lies that we've been told about Jesus was white, but we still haven't heard any of the big churches, the well-known pastors has come out and said anything. There still seems to be feeding people. I was speaking to one of my work colleagues today, and I said to her, we're talking about Jesus not being white, and she just found it was so hard to say that, yes, I believe Jesus is black. So she said, Jesus has no color. Now, you said there is something happening. There is something happening. The tide is turning. As you said, he is among us here. And I just feel so afraid that so many of us will be left behind because we cannot, the church, because this person is very prominent in the church. And just for her, she cannot believe that Jesus is a black, and Jesus will be black. So if he was to come, how are we? In Grenada at the moment, right here, we have an African gentleman that came here to seek asylum, and we have him in prison. 5 people came, and we could guarantee the 5 of them, 2 was arrested and 3 was let to go. I could guarantee the 3 that was let off was white. Now, if our Grenada is very conservative, it's I'd say 99.99% of the people are Christians, and they goes to church every single day. Now, we could have this person that is here could be Jesus, but because we are not what we are expecting Jesus to be, as you say, he could be among us, and it seems like we is going to crucify him again. This frightens me.
Sister, you're very insightful in what you just said, because the whole I'm taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that the whole deception of one looking back and being deceived and thinking that Jesus, from the historical context, is somehow going to come back over 1,000 years later to deliver us. And the fact that we're then looking for a white man means that the whole description is off. So when Jesus, even in our face, is doing the works of the Messiah, that we don't recognize him. And that's the whole point of it, that we will not recognize that one when he comes. And in terms of what you said about the churches and the pastors being responsible, I just want to make a disclaimer. I'm not here to by any means belittle Christianity or any of our family that call that ourselves Christians. To be Christ-like is a worthy title. But what we do have to be definitely be aware of for our own sake is anybody that knows the truth and that can see a description in the Bible of Jesus's complexion and his hair type and still be teaching you that it's a white man, knowing the side effects of what that can do. That doesn't please the God. It doesn't please the God, because if you know better, if you don't want to talk the truth, don't say anything at all. But to be in a position of trust whereby we know the truth, but we are, for whatever reason, and most of it's just through training, because if you're a former slave master and their children are going to teach you how to know God, they're going to teach you his name and teach you his complexion. Why wouldn't they teach you it's a white man? So there lies the issue. It's where we've been taught from. But if we know better, sister, we are definitely supposed to do better. Otherwise, we can expect retribution from the Most High God. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, based on what Ms. McQueen has been saying and what you have said, I mean, it takes us back to a fundamental thing that was done during that process of slavery and even continuously on a day-to-day basis. That colonization of information and that colonization of the narrative and subconsciously, alluding everything that is great and wonderful and pure and high in esteem to the white, and everything that is not of that is evil, that is dark, and so on, to black. And so that fundamental imprint or indoctrination in the brains of the people, even creates that self-hate, creates that lack of unity and cooperativeness, creates that worship and subservience to the imagery that was presented to you in terms of being white and so on. So it runs very deep, and it's important for us to understand and to even go beyond, because I think sometimes many people, as you said earlier on, Sylvena, get too caught up in the personality worship, into following people, and to not look at the fundamental values and the teachings, and to practically put this faith and this spirituality into manifestation in their life, so that when somebody meet them or so, they are able to be blessed by the presence and the
Right.
essence and its love and giving and nurturing and so on. And ultimately, our aim here, because Jesus came to actually show as a prototype to the people that, hey, it is possible for you within your flesh to govern to your highest realm and to be a divine manifestation, an instrument for God to work. So now here is what you can do. You love your neighbor as yourself, practice your faith and so on practically, and help and live in love. So it is the onus is on us right now. And I mean, it's so fitting that we have this conversation now, because when you tell people that this is more spiritual and it is physical, they don't really grasp it and understand it. And this time calls for us to do a lot in our inner engineering to change up the cards, so as to be able to really tap into our divine. Because for me, what is sometimes tough on the body, it's good on the spirit. Because a lot of us know, because of the COVID-19 pandemic and the pressure and being home, not having a job, not being able to watch football and basketball and all those things, and now have time where we can consciously look at certain things and be able to perceive certain things that we would not be able to see on a regular basis. So I think, like, I had to make that point here in terms of what has been said. prior with you and Miss McQueen Sylvena.
Thank you, brother.
Miss McQueen, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't get the last bit you said. Sylvana, can I ask you a question? Obviously, I don't know if I think maybe you're born in England. How did you find out about the Honorable Mr. Farrakhan? Was it something you were going through? Was it something you were searching for? Because personally, for me, there is a deep wanting, longing. I feel like I'm in the forest and I'm lost. And it seems there is so many of us wandering. We are wandering everywhere. We're going from church to church. We can't seem to settle. How long have you been with the minister, and why did you decide to be a follower?
So I wasn't, to answer your question, sister, I wasn't necessarily searching. I don't feel like I was searching, but what I had known for quite a while, that a lot of the questions that I had in terms of God, who is it? Is it it? Is it he, she? What is it? I never got an answer that really quenched my thirst, never. And I grew up, in a not necessarily a religious family, but a God-fearing family, principled and so on. But I never got the answers, even from those members of my family that were church going. Didn't get the answers from them. So a lot of us, sister, are walking around with this big insecurity. It's a very big insecurity to not know how you got here. Like the child who is unfortunate enough not to know any of their parents. It's very, very insecure. And a lot of us are walking around with that fundamental insecurity of not knowing who our creator is. And that's something that I was walking around with. So what attracted me to the Nation of Islam was that a lot of the questions that I had, and I consider myself to be a thinker, and I consider myself, even prior to the Nation of Islam, I consider myself to be a questioner, and I will sit down and think over things again and again. So I don't consider myself to be easily pleased or easily appeased. I'll ask questions, and when I asked the questions, and I was humble enough to receive, because you was alluding to it earlier, sister, some of us don't want the truth. If you're going to ask the question, when the truth comes, you at least need to be humble enough and intelligent enough to give yourself time to understand it. Give it time to resonate with you. Give your intellect time to mature into an understanding of it. And that's what I did. So that was my attraction. And I didn't want to have any children where I couldn't when they asked me who is God, I didn't want to have any children where I couldn't explain that to, because I don't understand how I can really call myself mommy, and maintain that respect if I can't tell my child when they're asking me a fundamental question about God. So that was a really big motivator for me. I'm 4 years, just past 4 years in the Nation of Islam, and enjoying every moment of it, because like I say, when you can embark upon something that removes a fundamental insecurity. So would you have looked at me and said I'm an insecure person? No, you wouldn't have. I don't think I had that vibe about me at all. But deep down, when you don't know who your creator is, there's a big deficit in your being, and having that deficit filled with a truth is amazing. It's amazing. And it's amazing in the way that it really does do something to you on a personal level. And that was my attraction, and that's why I'm still here.
I think for me, I remember Harvard. Jeffrey is listening on, and I remember once, what it's like, as I say, growing up, young boys in England with the stop and search. And I remember once my son was stopped, and I phoned him up because, I think in our prisons, our young men, it's like I literally call them slave camp. And I remember phoning him up and saying, my son was innocent. He was arrested. They called me and they said, Mom. And I said, phone him up and I said, Jeffrey, I'm fed up. I can't go on. I can't do it anymore. And he said to me, no, you cannot give up. If you give up, who has your son got? Who has our children got? And what you were saying was, and this is, I always remember that, and that gave me the strength to go on and to fight on. And when you meet somebody in the Nation of Islam, whether they are a teacher, whether they are a lawyer, it's not I'm a lawyer or I'm a teacher. I just teach a child, and when time go home, I forget about them. You guys invest your time into our children. And this is what I think the nation brings. I think once you listen to the Honorable Minister, your life seems to change. It does not matter if you stray away from it or you do not listen to it for another. There is words of wisdom that it gives to you that enable you to be able to go on. I don't know, if that was the same thing you felt, where you want more of it. You become a sponge. You just want more of his word. But looking at what's going on in Africa with COVID, I remember when it first started, everybody was saying, was speaking about Africa, Africa, Africa. Give the injection. We must take the injection for the virus. Black people, black people. What would you say? Oops, my battery's wrong. What would you advise us that the people that is out there, should we take the vaccine? Do you think?
To respond to what you said about when you listen to Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan, you change. Definitely. It definitely is a life-changing teaching, and because his teaching is straight from the Most High God, straight from our Creator, then it connects with our spirit, it connects with our soul, and that's what makes the difference. That's what makes the difference between someone. We're very as a people, lots of us can talk, but lots of us are very eloquent, but there's definitely a difference between let's just say someone who titillates you on the surface and someone who talks to you soul, and that's what Mr. Farrakhan does. So yes, definitely, and I think, like I said, that feeling there is what we need to move on, because if we moved on that, there would be many more people being rightly guided right now. COVID injections, we're taught not to not to take. We've done extensive research in terms of the MMR vaccines, and we took a film called Vax. We had a few people, scientists from the CDC, approach Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan after trying many different Black personalities in our community. They came to the Messiah, and we really went to work in terms of really looking into damage that this vaccine may or may not be doing. We went in with an open mind, and if you can ever get to see that film Vaxxed, the findings were astounding. So we don't advocate personally, on a personal level, we don't advocate vaccines, because we understand that the war is not just on a spiritual level. Yes, they will come at you through the pharmaceutical companies, and it's not just Black people, it's poor whites, and the oppressed all across the world. So we will fall foul to those things. So would I be taking any COVID vaccine? No. Would any member of the of anybody who's taking guidance from our teaching? No. But I can't come and make a blanket statement in terms of, what we should or shouldn't do with the vaccine. But personally, no, I wouldn't be doing that.
Well, so I won't be doing the vaccine either. My family were not vaccine people. I think we didn't see vax, but we were seem to have been on the same page with your teaching
Right.
and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's been great having you. I just have one final question. You talked about children and being able to answer their questions, and that was like a really powerful comment for me. What, as mothers at this time, what do we say to our children? We're raising the next generation who's going to have to carry on the fight. I don't think we're going to get where we need. Liberation is not going to come with us, and it sounds pessimistic, but I think we are the ones who are going to prepare our descendants for liberation. What do we say? What do we say to our children as the mothers? What do we say to our children about who we are and where we need to be? What's that one message that you would tell us that we should say?
Oh gosh.
I know there are many things to say, but just the core of what we need to message our children to make them strong enough to stand at the front of this.
I would tell them that you are the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, the God of the universe. And I would reinforce that to them day after day, so that they know that anything of good that their mind conceives, that the Most High God wouldn't allow them to have that thought if it wasn't possible.
Okay, so Kitaka Archer is on the same page. Archer is on the right path then.
Yeah.
I think
Archer is my son. Archer is my 9-year-old.
Archer is walking in his divine element.
Right. And well done. And I would say as well, we have to create a culture where once we've told them that the things that we expose them to, the things, yes, we can have honor music and them kind of things, but the things we expose them to on a daily basis feed into that. That has to be a way of life for them. Because if they're not if they're not growing if we're not creating our own classroom for them where they're going to learn to walk into that power, it's never going to happen. So we have to do that. We have to cocoon them in that power, definitely.
Well, I would like to end with what Jeffrey says. Our youth are the greatest generation we have ever produced because they are born for this time. What a time! I would love to have born in this generation.
And that's actually what the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan said. He's talking to the fact that the generation is not fearful of authorities, not fearful of laws, of the laws of man, and actually they go by whatever drives them. And yes, we know that at the moment it's perhaps wrongly guided, so they're manifesting that warrior spirit toward the negative. But if we can just teach and harness that fearlessness, that Joshua, Minister Farrakhan calls them the Joshua generation, if we can harness that and give them the right guidance, my gosh, and that's why they are under attack, because the enemy recognizes it. So yes, we love all of our people. We love our fearless youth. No matter what situations they've got themselves into, redemption is there for everybody. So it doesn't matter what situation you got yourself into, you can always build yourself out of it. And that's why we must never throw them away, even if they appear to be going the wrong way.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, sister.
So
Thank you.
we're actually out of time. We actually went over time with you, Sister Sylvena. It's
Okay.
been good to have you on the program. You know, a lot of information that even our people here in Grenada need to hear. You know, we are also climbing that hill here in various ways and trying to get there. So I want to thank you so much for sparing the hour to come on and talk with us. We are all going to be paying attention to the address tomorrow from the Honorable Louis Farrakhan.
Yeah.
I'm going to have Archer listen to it, Kitaka.
Okay.
I think, yeah. No, I think Archer has the capacity to sit and listen to such an address and take
Yeah,
away
man,
something
but
from it. So,
you know, Archer reads way above his age grade. Archer is actually an adult in a little boy's body. You know, I've had some conversations with him where, as the coach said, that generation now they're way advanced, man. Archer is
Yeah.
able to dissect that information.
They
yeah,
were
sometimes
born
I
for
tell
they were
him,
born for the time.
sometimes I tell him he frightens me sometimes. So,
Is
but
that your
um,
grandson? Is it your?
no, my 9-year-old son.
Oh wow. Okay.
Well, you
Yeah.
remember
Awesome.
Hillary Clinton said there is a super being of black men that that they have to try and press down because they're like superhuman. As they say they're not scared, then they will stand up whatever comes their way. They are ready to face it. The Kutakintes.
That's
you
right.
know.
All right.
That's
So,
right.
thanks to our viewers for being on Conversation 473 tonight. I hope that you got something that you can take away from this very powerful show that we had tonight. The conversation we had tonight sort of packaged a lot of what we've been talking about over the last few weeks. And so I hope that we've fed your soul and given you just a little bit more strength to keep on moving forward to where we need to go. It's all about liberation of the race, liberation of your mind. And remember, guys, it starts with you. Self-love. If you can get it right in your little corner, then you can be part of this mass movement that is required for the liberation of our people and the end of our hundreds of years of oppression. So thank you everybody for being on, and
Thank you for having
see
me.
you viewers next time. Oh yes, thank you for coming on. Rolanda,
Thank
Kitaka,
you,
see you next
thank
time.
you, sis.
You're welcome.
Have
You're
a
welcome.
wonderful one. Blessed weekend to everyone.
Okay.
Thank
You too.
you.
America was not built on a firm foundation. The nation called America was doomed from its inception. How do you build a nation? Killing the native people. How do you build a nation? Bringing a whole people out of Africa to America to be made slaves. This is your foundation. The world is looking at a country going to hell. You are opting to be a part of that is unraveling right in front of your eyes. You see the country cascading downward. This is America. Why do you want to get into something that is coming to an end? So we are living in the time of the unraveling of this great nation.